Welcome to the JD Power Insurance Intelligence Podcast. I'm Michael Vermillion with JD Power, and with me today are Steve Crewdson from JD Power. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Mike.
Craig Martin, also with JD Power. Craig, welcome.
Good to be back.
And finally, Mark Garrett, also with JD Power. Mark, good to see you again.
Yep. Yeah, you too, Mike.
Okay, great. Hey, today's topic is interesting. It's about bundling of insurance. And so I'd like to start off with just kind of a definition. So when we talk about bundling, what do we mean? So maybe, Steve, if you could take that, and then Craig, Mark, if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I'll start by saying bundling can mean, it depends on what product you're starting with. So for today's conversation, maybe we start with auto. So what are you bundling with your auto insurance policy? It could be any other product that the insurer offers, but what insurers are primarily focused on when they say bundling is the homeowner's policy. So the reason for that, we'll get into, I think, in our conversation today, quite a few, but that's the product that when bundled with auto leads to the greatest lift in retention of customers. So I think when you're thinking about the word bundling in the auto insurance context, you're thinking about bundling a home policy with the auto policy.
Yeah, and when we look at the homeowners data, that kind of really resonates, because if you think about, over 7 in 10 of homeowners say that they're bundling with auto. So it's that combo, that peanut butter and jelly kind of combo that everyone wants and everyone is looking for. When you have a home, you're also adding your auto in. So it's kind of that combination that is most common. But obviously, there's lots of other products from insurers, like life insurance and any pet. We could go down a whole laundry list of different items that are out there. So bundling can be lots of different things, but the primary and basic one is that home and auto.
Okay, so when we talk about bundling, let's look at it from the point of view of the consumers, and then let's look at it from the point of view for carriers. So let's start with the consumers. Is bundling a good thing or a bad thing?
For consumers, bundling has traditionally been a very good thing. It's a way that consumers can save on their auto and homeowners insurance premiums. So you think about the phenomenon of bundling that we're talking about today. Both the insurer and the consumer benefit. The consumer benefits from getting a discount on their combined package of policies. They also benefit from only having one insurer to deal with. They don't have to deal with multiple companies. So that makes their lives a little bit easier. Insurers benefit in a number of ways too, but from the customer perspective, it's been traditionally a good benefit for them. One thing that we've seen change, though, in the last few years is UBI is affecting consumers in their decisions to bundle. So usage-based insurance, UBI, in some cases, a consumer has told us in our surveys that they were able to save even more than they could by bundling by sending their auto policy to an insurer that offered a UBI policy discount, and then placing their homeowner's policy with a different insurer that had a less expensive premium on their home policy. And in aggregate, they saved more than by bundling with any insurer. So we're keeping our eyes on that phenomenon and how our consumers are reacting, but we're definitely seeing that the kind of normal dynamics around bundling have started to shift in the last few years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
just a point. Oh,
I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead, jump in.
yeah, I was just going to say, just a point to build on what Steve said. I think the streamlined point of contact, I think, is an important point. A lot of times, right? I mean, I work on our claim studies, and I think that can also be a very relevant kind of differentiator when you think if you have some kind of big weather event, right? These storms come through, you can often have damage to both, auto and home, assets there. So what we find is if you have one company, right, it's going to streamline that point of contact, right? We often see some people offer an advantage where they can just have like a combined deductible as well, or maybe it's kind of one policy deductible applying to both, both your auto and home. But I mean, I think to me that's another great example of that potential to kind of streamline the process. Just have one company you're dealing with as opposed to two separate claim processes you're going through.
Yeah, it's a great point. So my takeaway is that bundling from a consumer's perspective is a good thing for the reasons we just cited. What about from the carrier's point of view? Is bundling attractive to the carriers?
Well, I think Steve hit on this a little bit earlier, but I think certainly, as you're attempting to, homeowners in particular has become a kind of a loss leader in many regards. Is you're it's more costly, so you're trying to get that auto policy, which is more profitable as of late. So that can be beneficial as you're offering up, homeowners. Now, again, the dynamics of that are shifting, so there's some challenges there. But traditionally, you think about the customer has more products, they're more valuable to you, they're a higher lifetime value, they're more sticky, easier to retain, but also they're spending more money with you. They have more policies, more products and services. So generally, it's been a very good concept for them. But I know that Steve mentioned that and some of the shifts that we're seeing in the marketplace as well.
Okay, so it's attractive from the carrier's point of view as well. So what's the current state? What level of bundling are we seeing? And Craig, I suppose we would start from the homeowner's point of view, right? So what percent of homeowners are bundling their home insurance with their car insurance?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen with homeowners, the numbers have been pretty steady, although it's somewhat declining very recently, but it's still over 7 in 10 homeowners indicate that they bundle their home and auto policies. Only less than 20% say they don't bundle at all. So they only have a homeowner's policy. So kind of mentioned that homeowners isn't as attractive a product. Again, especially a lot of the cat events and more costly kind of nature of the business right now, driving people out. They aren't going to give you just a homeowner's policy. They're really looking to bundle, bring more business together. But it's very strong in terms of the homeowners bundling other products with that.
And then Steve, do we look at it from the other point of view, car insurance, customers bundling their home or renter's insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers do change there because if you think about it for a moment, most everybody has an automobile. Not everybody owns their home. So not everybody will have a need for a homeowner's policy, but most people will have a need for an auto policy. So when we start the analysis from the perspective of an auto insurance customer, we see a very different pattern. We see that going back almost 10 years ago, 2016, 2017, nearly 60% of auto insurance customers told us they had a home policy bundled with their auto policy. That number has been declining, though, ever since. We're now almost 10 years beyond that. In 2025, we see that only 38% of auto insurance customers tell us that they have a home policy bundled with their auto policy. So nearly a 20 percentage point drop. Almost, if you think about it, proportionally, about a third of those who had a bundled auto and home policy nearly 10 years ago don't have that anymore.
Well, that's super interesting because like when we kind of laid it out, we explained that bundling is attractive to consumers, bundling is attractive to carriers. Yet, Steve, what you're saying is that the level of bundling we see today is actually lower than where it was 10 years ago, and has actually been kind of steadily declining. So what's happening here? What's going on?
Well, part of it we addressed with the phenomenon of UBI changing the ideas around bundling. I think part of it too is it's geographical. It's really geographical, but in some markets like California, Florida, Texas, it's been increasingly difficult to find an insurer that will write you a home policy. So as a consumer, you might find that the insurer you want for your auto policy won't even write you a home policy, given the fact that you might live in an area that's more considered high risk now for that insurer. And that has also forced the hand of some consumers to not bundle. It might not in all cases be a consumer choice to not bundle, but if you live in a market where you've seen a lot of non-renewals of policies or carriers moving out of writing new business in that market, it's almost by force that the customer has to choose a different insurer for both their auto and home. In some cases, we see survey respondents telling us, "I feel lucky I can even find somebody to write my home policy." So the luxury of finding a bundled policy might not even be something they can find in the market in certain geographic regions.
Yeah, and Steve, and do you think that just the steady increase in premiums over the last 18 months, 2 years is also having a role there too? You think it's almost pushing more people? Right, you've seen shopping trends skyrocket, so it's almost pushing people into a market to start getting prices where maybe they were in a set it and forget it mindset for a while, bundling products. Where now we're pushing, all these rate increases are pushing people into a marketplace, and maybe they can find better deals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the industry data is telling us that, Mark, and in some conversations we're having with carriers, they'll tell us just flatly, we've stopped taking rate on auto. We're doing everything we can to maintain the auto business, but we have to take rate. We're losing money on home, so we're still taking rate. And we're seeing our bundled customers go out and shop and take both policies with them. So while the headlines lately have been around auto insurance premiums, what isn't getting enough attention, I don't think, is that homeowners insurance premiums are still going up. And consumers that are bundling both are going to act based on that. So you might, as an insurer, lose the auto because you took rate on home, because you had what was in the past a stronger relationship, right? The bundle led to a stronger relationship. Now it could lead to you lose the auto because the home policy went up and the customer left due to that.
Hey, I'm curious, do we see a demographic play here? And the reason I ask that is because I know, looking at the claims data, I think I looked at the AIS information before too, where we found that the awareness of rate increases skewed more toward an older insured, right? Like the baby boomers had much higher awareness of rate increases. But again, if that's the bundled customer, right, I'm getting multiple bills, I'm seeing my net insurance I'm paying is going up considerably. It's like, did we see any impact on bundling rates by demographics? Or kind of age, I guess, is what I'd be most curious about.
Yeah, you do see some bundling differences by age. You'll also see, to your point, Mark, about the older the consumer may be more sensitive or noticing the price increases more. At a certain stage of life, you're not paying a mortgage anymore, right? So if you're going to be paying your homeowner's insurance, you're less likely to be paying that through escrow. So you'll see the bill more often. You'll see the statement because you're writing a check to that insurer. Whereas if you're younger and you're paying, all else being equal, right, you're more likely to have a mortgage, so you're more likely to be paying through escrow. You might not see the change in the premium, so you might not even be aware that happened. You saw that your mortgage payment changed, but you might think that could be taxes, it could be a lot of things, what's going on there. But when you're done paying your mortgage and you're writing the check to the insurer, you certainly see the fact that your home and/or auto insurance premium went up substantially in the last couple of years. So I think there is an age component to that.
And we're seeing a lot in the data that would show, one, premium increases have been dramatically increasing, reported from consumers. And then obviously you look at the market data, and that's, just about every state has seen double-digit increases in premiums for homeowners. And now we're also seeing one of the trigger events is, what are the reasons people shop? Yeah, big rate increases or multiple rate increases. So, I mean, you hear about this, insurers are having to go back multiple times to state regulators to increase their premiums. So repeatedly it's coming back and it's hitting you. And as Steve mentioned, if I'm paying you directly, I definitely see it. But if I'm paying through escrow, I start to notice my escrow is jumping up, and more mortgage servicers are communicating back, here's what's driving your increases. So they're actually communicating back, it's not us, your mortgage isn't going up per se. It's the fact that maybe it's your taxes, but more likely it's your homeowner's insurance. So you're getting that red flag, and people start to feel that and see that. And, again, older consumers, all things equal, are probably going to be, they have a little more time on their hands to, if you're retired, you're going to pay a little closer attention to your bills, and maybe you're on a fixed budget as well. So you're looking at those numbers really carefully to say, hey, where do I need to be buckling down? Where do I need to be saving? So a lot of the market forces are going to be just increasing the sensitivity to any of that impact. So I think we definitely are seeing that play out. And Steve mentioned, what we see is the bundled customer, when they say they're going to move, they say they're going to move everything. They're not going to leave behind the auto if they're going to have to switch home. So they're making that move. They're making a wholesale move. They like to bundle. They want to keep that convenience. All the reasons we mentioned earlier are going to drive them to think about switching carriers altogether if they can find someone else who will bundle and give them a better deal.
So what's the future of bundling? And number one, where's this going? And then number two, are we seeing any kind of innovation when it comes to bundling?
I'll start really quick with, I think bundling's not going to go away. Although I wouldn't have said 10 years ago we'd see a third of people that are bundling stop bundling. I still think that when you watch the marketing campaigns that the large insurers are putting out, they still have a heavy emphasis on bundling. And that's due to the fact that they still see the data that shows that if they have a customer that has auto and home both with them, they retain that customer longer. And it's not traditionally thought of this way, but I think it helps the consumer to think of your auto insurance policy as kind of like a subscription. Every 6 months you get a chance to renew your subscription to your insurer. The insurer wants to have you renew that subscription. The longer you renew it, the more likely they are to find that you're a profitable customer to them. So they want to have that bundle that makes you renew for years and years, makes you perhaps less price sensitive, etc. So we're not seeing insurers pull back from trying to win that type of customer. If anything, they're increasing their efforts. In light of the fact that consumers are making different choices, they're likely, across everything that I see from the marketing side of things, they're increasing their efforts to focus on winning that type of customer.
Yeah, I think one of the trends we're picking up too is also you think of the impact of like this embedded insurance, right? Or offering it at a point of sale, or the auto manufacturers offering it. Hey, you buy a car, we're going to roll in auto insurance in your maintenance package. Like, right, give you all these options into one package. A customer may view that as bundling, right? Because I'm bundling my payments, I'm bundling these services into one. But again, it's really almost encouraging them to pull apart the traditional, P&C bundled products. I think that's an interesting trend we're keeping our eye on too.
Yeah, and we're seeing, I think, other services start to come into play. So if I can capture you up front and as using data and analytics to better understand your customer, you can start offering them products and services that may be relevant. So you can better tailor a life insurance offering or a pet insurance or what's going to be relevant to that individual where they live in the country. So I think there's that personalization component that becomes stronger. If you know that customer, you know what products they have with you, but also you can better understand them. You can offer them other services and smart home and all this intelligent information that brings you kind of more insight can potentially offer kind of more value to the customer. We're even seeing them discounts on other services and capabilities that aren't insurance in particular, but that becomes part of that kind of broader what's the value you bring to the table rather than just the policy at its core price. There's other aspects that make them stickier and better clients for you.
Okay, great. So just to kind of finish up then, what's the call to action for the carriers? What are the smart carriers doing when it comes to bundling?
I'll start with home. And I think this, we've hit on this a couple times, but it's don't sleep on home. If you're assuming that, you can keep raising premiums and the customer is just going to sit around and take it, oftentimes, again, they're looking at an aggregate. It's their budget. So how much are they paying for insurance? You are a dollar amount going out the door. So it's important to understand that while you may be getting more competitive on your premiums for auto, that could put you at risk if your home premiums are still going up. So making sure you have good communication and engagement, again, think about the holistic relationship, not just one product or service for a bundled customer.
I'll jump in too with when we talked about the benefits the customer gets, the benefits the insurer gets. If you boil down what the insurer gets is they get a more valuable customer. So in our research, what we've done is taken a view of how is the service that a customer is getting either through their shopping journey or in their day-to-day service based on how valuable of a customer they are to their insurer. And surprisingly, what we find in light of all of the large insurers saying publicly, saying to their investors, saying at conferences, we want to win the more valuable customer. We want to win the more bundled customer. We want to retain them. The service levels in the shopping journey, if anything, might be better if you're a lesser valuable customer. And in your day-to-day service, in our auto insurance study, we see that the service levels are the same, whether you're a high value or a low value customer. So a recommendation that insurers could activate on pretty quickly here is if you're really that intent on winning and retaining a high value customer, i.e. a bundled customer, differentiate the experience for them. The shopping journey right now is a great opportunity to show that you really value their business and you want to win them as a customer. Your competitors are not doing that right now. In the day-to-day service, show them that you want to retain their business. Again, your competitors are really not doing that right now.
Yeah, and I just add on more than just the day-to-day service, but in the the less frequent service, like having a claim, but that's really using the product. To me, that's that key moment of truth, and we certainly see a big relationship there, right? If you can have a customer, like if I look at the auto study, those homeowners who are in that study, we see a bigger lift in just their favorable impression of the company, right? A bigger lift in their stated intent to renew. There's a very strong link there between delivering a great claims experience, right? Delivering on that promise of the policy, and then creating that stickiness in the customer relationship. And what one thing that was interesting is we found that there's just generally a lift overall, but we found it's even greater with younger customers where you're still establishing that relationship with them, right? Establishing that impression of them. We find the lift to the favorability toward the brand, their stickiness goes up even more than what we see in some of the older customer groups.
Okay, any final thoughts on bundling? Is there anything that we didn't cover?
I think we covered the high points. I would just, speaking to consumers, if you're watching, don't walk away from the opportunity to save with your bundled policy. You might find that some insurers can offer you a better deal if you split the policies with UBI and different home insurer, but for many consumers, the best deal is to be found by bundling. And for the insurers listening in, they already have all the data. They've seen it for decades. They know they want to win that customer, but today's environment calls upon you to act a little bit differently to win that type of customer, to really differentiate the experience all the way through, as Mark said, to the claim. So really think about the very beginning of the relationship at the shopping journey all the way through to when they have that moment of truth, the claim. How are you going to prove to that bundled customer that you really value what they're bringing to the table for you?
Okay, that was a great conversation about bundling. Steve, Craig, and Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
We want to thank our producers, Dan and Carolyn, and then also, of course, thank our listeners, and we'll see you next time.